Good morning. My name is Susan Bishop. I am a approaching mid-70s, white woman wearing today a peach and white striped shirt and a pair of white slacks. I know it's not Memorial Day, but I like to wear white anytime. My pronouns are she and her, and welcome to First Unitarian Church, where our mission is to explore the eternal, nurture community, and to pursue the common good. We welcome you in your wholeness and in your brokenness, no matter who you have been, who you are, or who you are becoming. We greet you today with love. I'd like to extend a special welcome to everyone who's watching us on YouTube this morning. During the prelude, please introduce yourself in the comments and let us know where are you tuning in from. If it's Oklahoma City, what neighborhood are you in? Or if you're elsewhere, what city are you in? And now the prelude prepares us for worship. We light our chalice this morning as a symbol of our sacred time together. The burning chalice represents the light of reason and science, the warmth of loving community, and the cleansing heat of justice and the flame of hope.
Again, welcome. I am Reverend Sue Redfern Campbell, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. For those in our community who are blind or visually impaired or are joining us online without video, I am a short Euro-American woman with short brown and gray hair, and I'm wearing various shades of blue and my new name tag. I often walk with a cane. Our ushers today are members of the Brew Group. And the Brew Group meets monthly at a local pre-selected establishment for drinks, conversation, and fellowship. If you would like to attend or learn more about the group, speak to one of the ushers or contact John Schneider or Zach Martin. Here at First Unitarian, there is a commitment to sharing pronouns and other self-descriptions as part of the effort to ensure that everyone is included in full participation in the life of our church. In the spirit of inclusion, our sanctuary is equipped with a telecoil hearing loop system, and if you need to know how to access that, please see your hearing aid provider. We also have large print orders of service and hymnals, which are available at the back of the sanctuary. And now, Paul Spicer has a special announcement from the stewardship team.
Good morning. As Reverend Sue said, I'm Paul Spicer. My pronouns are he and him. I'm a Euro-American man in my middle ages, and I'm wearing a gray sweatshirt. Middle ages, middle age. I'm feeling kind of medieval, yeah. And we were trying to come up with an appropriate tone here today. At any rate, I'm the chair of our stewardship committee, and this is the last update I think we have for you. We've had a great campaign. Thank you for those of you who've given. We've almost reached our goal. We're $21,000 short, which is not a lot of money in the context of an overall budget. What we have raised so far means that we can continue to honor our commitments to fair compensation and fully supporting the UUA. But to do so, we have to draw on one-time bequests and our endowment, resources that would be better reserved for other purposes. Because of this, we're asking everyone to consider whether you can increase your pledge this year. For those of you who cannot, we totally understand, and thank you for what you've already done. But for those of you who might be able to do more, you'll find a QR code on the back of your order of service. This is different from the one we used before. This will take you directly to a form, to a letter from Kathy Webster, and a form where you can increase either your monthly or your annual contribution. This is the same information we just sent you in an email on Thursday. Every little bit helps. As Kathy says, the gap is not that big. Thanks again for your support.
As we continue to settle into this sacred time, let's take a deep breath. Let's let go of whatever is getting in the way of just being present to this moment. And now, let's keep centering in with these words from Walden, from Henry David Thoreau. You will find the words "to live deliberately" in the back of the gray hymnal at number 660. We'll give you a moment to find those. And let's read them responsively. Your part is the indented, italicized one. Why should we live in such a hurry and waste of life? We are determined to be starved before we are hungry. I wish to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life. I wish to learn what life has to teach, and not, when I come to die, discover that I cannot live. I do not wish to live what is not life. Living is so dear. Nor do I wish to practice resignation unless it is quite necessary. I wish to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. I want to cut a broad swath to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. If it proves to be mean, then to get the whole and genuine meanness of it and publish its meanness to the world. Or if it is sublime, to know it by experience and to be able to give the true account of it. Our opening hymn is also in the gray hymnal, Lady of the Season's Laughter, number 51.
Laughter in the summer's warmth beneath, when the winter follows after, teach our spirits not to fear. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning year. Sister generations, in whose love all life is worth. Everlasting celebrations bring us labor safe to birth. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning earth. Goodness of all time's progression, stand with us when we engage, hands and hearts to end oppression, writing history's fairer page. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning age.
That was good. And good morning again. I entitled my reflection, "The Power of Sisterhood," because I think sisterhood is very powerful. It's been a tad over 20 years when I was invited to teach hand drumming to a group of women who practiced Wiccan traditions. I was intrigued because I didn't think I knew any witches, and exploring other sacred traditions has always appealed to me. The workshop I gave taught basic African hand drum rhythms I had learned, and we put the rhythms together and we created powerful music. I don't use the word powerful lightly. I shared a very profound experience with these women that I did not know, but who transformed me somehow, and the way I looked at myself, at other people, and at Mother Earth. And this was all in one night. The rhythm I chose for the opening ceremony was Rumbayesa. There are probably 3 or 4 different rhythms that dovetail very nicely with the original rhythm, so I taught the women the basics, and we began to play. Almost immediately, there was an energy that emanated from the 14 or 15 of us gathered in a circle. We started slowly, softly, almost sensually. We let the rhythm build and expand until it drew in others. That's when I closed my eyes and I began to play the alternate rhythms. This particular drum circle generated energies that mingled with my own, giving me the sensation of leaving my physical body and floating on wisps of air. And in that state, I no longer had substance, but I could see my physical body with my eyes closed and my hands beating out the rhythms in sync with everyone else. And these hands were moving so fast, faster than I had ever drummed in my life. Through these closed eyelids, I watched the women as they drummed, keeping the driving beat that became a part of me, a part of them, a part of us. And I watched women in the greater circle begin to dance, waving their arms and twirling their bodies as the drum beat carried them forward in a circle dance. Now, I know you may think I must have lost it, gone round the bend, and perhaps a visit to the funny farm was in order. And there was no drinking and no mind-altering substances found anywhere during this weekend. But there was a full moon gazing down upon our circle and the dance. And I prefer to think that something quite magical happened to me, or perhaps a spell was cast. But if ever I needed an example of how interconnected we are, suffice it to say, I experienced it. I've had other quite very powerful encounters with sisterhood, but none were quite like this. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Lori Jervis, and I am chair of Committee on Ministry, sorry. I'm a Euro-American woman wearing a blue patterned top and kind of a maroonish jacket. Every Sunday, we take an offering. Since 2002, all the cash and designated checks from that offering have gone directly to external nonprofit organizations doing good work, our Change for Change partners. For the month of April, our Change for Change partner is the Third Space Foundation for Juneteenth on the East Festival. The Third Space Foundation grew out of the Third Space, a co-working and community building environment in Norman, Oklahoma. Dr. Suzette Grillat founded the Third Space in the summer of 2019. Their mission is to create an empowering and supportive third place where all individuals feel welcomed and safe. Our contribution to the Third Space Foundation enables us to be sponsors of the Juneteenth on the East Festival. For those of you who are in the sanctuary with us today, in just a moment, we'll be passing the offering plate. We know that many of you prefer to mail in a check or make your donations to Change for Change online. You can always make your gift by mailing a check to First Unitarian. Just write Change for Change on the memo line, or make an online payment through our website, oneuc.org.
That glorious music prepares us for a time of meditation or prayer. And I like to do meditations so that they are first spoken and then silent and then they conclude with something that is sung. So to be ready, I invite you to turn in the turquoise-colored hymnal, the little paperback one, to hymn number 1047, Nada te turbe. And you can bookmark it in some way so you're ready to sing it at the end of the silence. The words for this hymn come from Teresa of Avila. She was one of the great church reformers of the 17th century, lived in Spain. And the music is from Jacques Berthier of the Taizé community in France. And the spoken meditation comes from the late UU minister and poet Jacob Trapp. If it is language that makes us human, one half of language is to listen. Silence cannot exist without speech, but speech cannot live without silence. Listen to the speech of others. Listen even more in their silence. To pray is to listen to the revelations of nature, to the meaning of events. To listen to music is to listen also to silence and go find the stillness deepened and enriched. And so I invite you to join me now in a few moments of silence. Amen. So be it. Blessed be. Please remain seated for the hymn.
For our meditation hymn, we're going to hum the melody twice and then sing the text. Hum the melody twice and sing the text again.
nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. Those that seek God shall never go wanting. Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. God alone fills us.
"17 years ago, when I was pushing 60, I began a new chapter in my life. It ended 2 years later, but it will last a lifetime. I left everything behind, shelves and shelves of books, an apartment's worth of furniture and clothing, and a 7-year ministry in Massachusetts. And I made my way to the community of the Holy Spirit, a small community of sisters in the Episcopal Church. Yes, there are Episcopal nuns. But you may be thinking, what was a nice Unitarian Universalist minister like you doing in a place like that? And my answer would have to be, it's complicated. I left our UU tradition for a time to live a life which is admittedly foreign to most UUs, but the impulse that led me there also has roots in our tradition. Henry David Thoreau, who grew up in Unitarian in Concord, Massachusetts, expressed the monastic impulse well in the first lines of Walden. "I went to the woods," he wrote, "because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived." To live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, to live in a state of radical simplicity with just enough. The desire that led Thoreau to Walden Pond has also for centuries led people out into the desert and into convents and monasteries. Looking back, I see that one of the reasons I felt drawn to this life was that my own life felt cluttered. I had too many books, too many papers, too much stuff. But more important, my ministry felt cluttered. I felt swamped by inessentials, what Stephen Covey calls the urgent but not important. A radical shift was needed, a way of getting back to basics, but what might that be? Well, while serving in UU congregations, I'd often gone on retreat to monasteries, Catholic or Episcopal, and felt deeply at peace. And so I wondered, did that say something about my own life? Was I perhaps interested in becoming a monastic myself? Well, UU monastic communities are rather scarce. So I turned to the liberal progressive wing of the Episcopal Church. And altogether, I spent 20 months with CHFs, the Community of the Holy Spirit. For the first 8 months, I was in their Manhattan convent, a large multi-story brownstone in Morningside Heights. It was a block from the Hudson River and just down the street from Columbia University. From there, I moved 90 miles north to the community's Earth Ministry in Brewster, New York. And in Brewster, 4 sisters shared life in an 18th century farmhouse, and they operated a small organic farm. And they sometimes joked that they were really Episcopagans. So what did I learn? I certainly acquired many practical skills, all classifiable as things I never learned in seminary. In Manhattan, I learned about singing Gregorian chant and the art of monastic hospitality. In Brewster, I learned to grow vegetables organically, to preserve them in different ways, and to save the seeds. I also learned to make fresh cheese and yogurt, to tap sugar maples and turn sap into syrup, and to improvise fearlessly in the kitchen. Recipes were discouraged. Beyond these skills was personal growth. Whatever your Myers-Briggs personality type, living in community will stretch you, I guarantee it. If, like me, you're a P on the Myers-Briggs, someone who likes to go with the flow, the structured life will instill some discipline. On the other hand, if you're a J who thrives on structure, you will learn flexibility from predictable disruptions in the schedule. If you are an extrovert, somebody who gets energy from having people around, the silence built into monastic life will force you to turn inward if it doesn't drive you crazy first. But if you're an introvert who thrives on solitude and silence, living with the same people 24/7 will pull you out of yourself. You will enter the interpersonal playing field in an intense way. Of course, monastic life is hardly the only life that makes us stretch and grow. It's especially intense, though, because there are fewer distractions than most of us are used to. If we were feeling out of sorts with ourselves or others, we couldn't easily retreat into the TV room or put our feet up with a drink or get in the car and go shopping. We were pretty well stuck with whatever it was and forced to deal with it, to work it through. As a result, we encountered our own shadow side on a daily basis. If we were having difficulty with another person, sooner or later we'd have to look at ourselves and ask, what within us was getting hooked by that person? Living in community also highlighted the challenges of following the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus' teaching to love our enemies. That was hard, but loving those who get on our nerves on a regular basis might even be harder. So those were the personal growth lessons, and then there were the ones just about the monastic vows. And specifically, we're talking here about the threefold vow of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Every monastic community has some version of them, And the words may sound antiquated, and they are in fact ancient. Properly understood, though, I think they speak to our time with radical urgency. Take the first vow, poverty. At the Brewster farm, the sisters practice it through their food practice. They grow most of what they eat without pesticides or chemical fertilizers, and what they can't grow themselves, they buy locally. In other words, they aspire to live as simply as possible in harmony with Earth, doing the least harm possible to the planet. And although they wouldn't put it this way, they really do observe the UU seventh principle, respect for the independent web of all existence, of which we are a part. But it's important to note, monastic poverty, when it's freely chosen, is really different from involuntary poverty. It is not about living hand to mouth, but rather about renouncing personal possessions and ownership. For the most part, today's monks and nuns, the ones I know, live quite comfortably through communal ownership. And some monastics will even tell you that to apply the word poverty to monastic life affronts those who have no choice, who are forced into poverty. And so for monastic poverty, simplicity is a better word. Now, in this connection, there's a story about a Franciscan friar who visited a beautiful, art-filled, ornate Benedictine house in California. The friar entered the elegant main hall and looked around and exclaimed, "Wow, if this is poverty, I'd like to see chastity." And that brings us to the second monastic vow. And in a monastic context, chastity does mean celibacy, though this goes beyond sexual abstinence. Couples in faithful relationship are also chaste, for example. There is a stereotype afoot that monks and nuns choose celibacy because it's virtuous, and avoidance of the sins of the flesh. But the monastics I know actually affirm sexuality as a holy gift. Thus, the practice of celibacy isn't about gaining heavenly rewards. Rather, it's a path toward a certain kind of freedom, freedom to extend love and compassion to a wide circle of people. In these days of Me Too, it's also a way of being in solidarity with victims and survivors of sexual abuse. It is also a specific vocation to which only some are called. And chastity has its meanings beyond the literal. In community, it can include many ways of respecting other people's boundaries. And it can even extend to taming one's thoughts. This doesn't mean suppressing ideas or creative thinking. Rather, it's about taming the aggressive, nattering part of the ego with its pride, its envy, resentment, or tendency to judge others. Meg Funk, a Benedictine nun, maintains that taming our thoughts is the primary work of monastic life. It's a difficult, ongoing process, but gradually it frees us to love more deeply and to hear the ever so small voice of the divine deep inside. The divine, however you may conceive that to be. Obedience is the third monastic vow, and here the polls are unanimous. This is the most difficult vow. And even to hear the word obedience, I'm guessing, makes many of us cringe. But in its Latin root, obedience means simply listening, what Jacob Trapp talked about in our meditation words. St. Benedict, one of monasticism's guiding lights, spoke of listening with the ear of the heart. And in community, obedience takes many forms. Sometimes it does mean becoming detached from our own wants and doing what someone else asks of us. But it also means listening to the entire community and participating in its mission. And this is not about somebody having power over somebody else. Rather, it binds the community together at its best, granting a sense of power with others. In the midst of the pandemic, I wonder, how would things have been different had everyone listened to scientists and healthcare providers? How would things have been different had everyone put the well-being of the entire community above their supposed freedoms? And I wonder sometimes about our UU communities as well. What would they be like if we practiced deep listening, deep obedience to one another? What if we listened to one another with the ear of the heart? And what if such listening led to a deep, strong, shared sense of purpose? Obedience to the quiet voice inside led me into the community of the Holy Spirit, and it also led me back out again. Here's how it happened. During Lent of 2008, when things had gotten very quiet around the farm, an insistent inner voice started bubbling up, and what it said with increasing clarity was that it was time for me to come home. That is, home to ministry in congregations, and home to my Unitarian Universalist tribe. I heard the inner voice when I awoke one bright Saturday morning in February, and I got out of bed. My feet hit the floor, and a thought popped up out of nowhere. You know, Sue, your real passion is congregations. Well, this took me aback, and all I could say was, oh. In the days that followed, other unbidden thoughts backed this one up. I stood washing dishes one day, looking out the window at a redbud tree starting to bloom. By leaving ministry, said the voice, you've cut off your right arm. Again, oh. Not to mention, ouch. Soon at night, confirming dreams started coming. In the most vivid one, I was supposed to travel with a group of female clergy in bright stoles, but I missed the bus. I woke up in a total state of agitation. Now, some dreams are hard to interpret, but this one, not so much. And so, in the end, the most important thing I learned from the sisters was a renewal of my own vocation and of my UU ordination vows made in 1985. It's clear that I needed a break from ministry after more than 20 years, but it's also just as clear that I needed to return. And that kind of obedience, I think, is for everyone. It's not just for ministers, not just for monks and nuns. Life beckons us all to attend to an authentic inner voice. And this is not about doing whatever we please or ignoring the relationships that are important to us, but neither is it about trudging through life with no joy, governed by shoulds. 2 Sundays ago, I quoted Frederick Buechner, who said, we find our vocation at the place where our deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. We find our vocation, our calling, at the place where our deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. Commenting on this, the Quaker educator Parker Palmer writes, "The world needs everything, but vocation begins in what brings us joy, the deep joy of knowing that we are here on earth to be the gift that God created." And so I believe that an invitation comes to each of us from the heart of life. And for each, it will take a different form, it will sound different, it will take maybe different forms at different times. But the invitation is always to live from our heart, to live from the depths of our being, and to be the gift to the world, the gift we have always been. Our closing hymn is number 298.
We shall be taking verses 1, 3, and 5.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering, fill the white sky. Take as your neighbor was stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my vision of ministry clear, brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work to the planet transformed by our care.
Our benediction comes from the Reverend Rebecca Parker, theologian and former president of Star King School for the Ministry. Choose to bless the world. The choice to bless the world can take you into solitude to search for the sources of power and grace, native wisdom, healing, and liberation. More, the choice will draw you into community, the endeavor shared, the heritage passed on, the companionship of struggle, the comfort of human friendship, the company of earth, the chorus of life welcoming you. None of us alone can save the world. Together, that is another possibility waiting. Go in peace.